The film begins with the presentation of the company Core, which is a very well-known company. Formerly the owner was named Ted Core, however out of nowhere he disappeared. Therefore the company was passed on to his sister Victoria Core. In the present we see her with Caparax, her bodyguards, where they were both in a mine. Claiming that the Blue Beetle was there, both Caparax and Victoria were happy. They knew that the Scarab would bring a lot of profit to their company, and they could make too much money, or perhaps be better than the Wayne or Luther Company. Meanwhile, in the city of Palmeras in Texas, we meet Jaime Reyes. He was about to be met by his family at the airport. There he is met by his sister Milagro, his parents, his grandmother, and his uncle Rudy, with whom he has a lot of trust. Jaime had just graduated and he was very happy with the future that awaited him, considering that he had an immigrant family with many difficulties. He knew he could help them financially if he could get a good job. But when he got home, he discovered that his family was losing their home, because Core Industries was raising the rent. And on top of that, his father had suffered a heart attack because he himself was working non-stop. But despite this, they could only make ends meet for the month and home. So Jaime looked for a way to support his family, especially now, since he was the first in the family to go to college and graduate. And thanks to the Holy Spirit and the Little Yellow Virgin, he got a job at Victoria's mansion, since both he and his sister Milagros were working in cleaning. He looks at the mansion, he looks at the beach, and somehow he felt rich, and he was very happy because he knew that someday he would be able to buy those things. However, his sister tells him to live his reality and keep working, because the landlady was not long in coming. Just at that moment, Victoria Core arrives, accompanied by Caparag. They were watching the preparations for that night, because that day opened a big party where many investors would attend the event. However, when Jenny Core, Vicky's niece and daughter of Ted Corp, he was at the mansion and began discussing things related to OMAC, which is a core industry system that was designed to revolutionize the weapons market. It is clear that Lomac is based on the same technology that the Scarab uses. Jenny knew that her aunt had the Scarab, and since Jenny did not want Core to become a weapons manufacturing company, she immediately objected to Lomac. Upon hearing this, I saw her get angry and was about to hit Jenny, but Amy comes in and asks her employer not to be so violent. She gets angry and tells him to get out of there, and she was fired, and to top it off, she also fires her sister. However, before she leaves, she is offered a job, so Jaime decides to go to the company the next day. And once he arrives, his family was overjoyed because he was going to work for a famous company. Jaime puts on his best suit and everyone accompanies him to the company. However, what he didn't know is that Jenny was planning to steal the Beetle that same day. When he gets there, everything is chaos as the guards start chasing them. So when she wanted to escape, several guards chase her, so he gives her the Scarab and asks her not to open the box and to leave. When she gets home, she is very curious to open the box of hamburger that Jenny had given her. And upon opening it, he sees that there was a beetle in there. Jaime, not knowing what it really is, touches the beetle and joins it through his spinal cord. And that's how he transforms into Blue Beetle for the first time. Jaime didn't know what was going on, but suddenly the suit sends them flying, reaching such a speed that they even find themselves in space. The suit teaches him that he could breathe in space and could protect him from a lot of other things, and when he returns home, his family thought he was possessed or had brought something cursed with him. So that same afternoon, Jaime returns to Core Industries to learn more about the beetle. And when he arrived at the company, he found Jenny and she was still running away, so he decides to take her out of the building. And in this way protect her until he takes her home. Once there, she didn't know much about the Scarab, but she knew that the Scarab is a planet-conquering weapon, who always chooses her host, and she happened to choose Jaime Reyes. So Jenny asked Jaime to help her steal a very important key, but the bad thing is that it was inside the company. They knew that security was tight, so Uncle Rudy pulled out a machine that he has been working on for many years. Thus, when they arrive at the company, they use the machine, causing the blocking of all types of transmissions, and a Mexican cartoon appears on the screens. In this way, they manage to enter the building without being discovered, and after Jenny acquires her father's watch, she realizes that it was in fact the key she had been talking about. However, Capra disappears and he and Jaime start to fight, although the battle does not last long because Jaime manages to defeat him very easily. When they are on the ground, the Scarab tells him that the best thing to do would be to kill him, but Jaime tells him that he is not that kind of person. After the battle, the three of them go to Stade, Ted Cower's old mansion. This place had been abandoned for a long time, and is also the place where Ted Cower mysteriously disappeared. Using the watch as a key, Jenny opened a passageway leading to a subway base, which was evidently secret because it was full of gadgets and also technology they didn't know about. Here Uncle Rudy learns that Ted Korb used to be a superhero named Blue Beetle, although this doesn't quite clear up, because in the past, Ted Korb knew he couldn't be Scarab's host, so he used his intelligence to create lots and lots of weapons and defended the innocent. This revelation makes Jamie and Jenny have too many doubts and they leave, while Uncle Rudy decides to look for files in the database, since this way he could learn more about the Scarabajo. At the same time, we see that Jamie discovers that the Scarabajo is called Kajida, but the bad thing is that on Uncle Rudy's side he discovers that the only way to eliminate the Scarabajo is to kill the host, since both the carrier and the machine merge. And if one dies, so does the other. Upon learning all this and knowing that if the scarab is inside him, his entire family could be at risk. He pinches it for a while and Jaime comes to the conclusion that he has to go out of his way, or else his family could be at risk. But what they didn't know is that Vicky and her team found out that Jaime had the scarab. They immediately go to her house and Jaime, upon learning of this, also goes to his, which he wears the suit and gets home quickly. However, once he arrives, he sees Vicky's men who already had his family. But before the Sikosis could react and do something, Jaime manages to neutralize them. However, the father and sister were caught in the middle of the chaos. Worse yet, Jaime's father was not completely unharmed and suffered a heart attack. And distracted by his father's condition, he is very worried and hates Carapaz's back, who suddenly appears and neutralizes Jaime. This allows Vicky to easily capture Jaime, and several minutes pass after this. And the ambulance and the police finally arrive at the scene. But since it had taken them so long, Jaime's father's heart could not hold out, and he died. And the remaining family members who were worried about Jaime didn't have time to mourn his father's death, as they needed to immediately rescue Jaime. That's when Jenny told him that she could help them get Jaime back, so Jenny takes the family from the Blue Beetle's hideout. She tells her that Jaime is on a ship on Pago Island, a remote base owned by Core Industries. The entire family heads to Pago, while Vicky and her chief scientist named Sanchez initiate the code transfer procedure. Sanchez initiate the code transfer procedure? In this way they could completely unlock the scarab, but better yet, with such technology they could train and create better, stronger, and more durable warriors. But before they could complete it, the family arrives at the ship, starting to fight against all the guards, creating chaos and also distractions, which causes Jenny and Milagro to infiltrate the base. Once inside, they place Arab modes throughout the area, and in this way manage to incapacitate Boris Guardia. At the same time, we see that Vicky continues to experiment with Jaime, causing him to dream of his father. The latter, in his dream, tells him that he must embrace his destiny, he must be strong, and most importantly, he must protect his family. Hearing the words of his late father, he allows Jaime to complete the bonding process, resulting in the fact that he had now merged at the cellular level. However, the transfer process had also already been completed, meaning that Carapaz's suit was now much stronger than the Beetle, as upon transferring all of the technology now possessed all of Blue Video's powers. Jaime, being overpowered, decides to escape as the Beetle was currently rebooting, so he runs through all the hallways while his grandmother grabs a submachine gun and confesses to Jaime that she belonged to the Zetas. Yeah, if you're from Mexico, you know what I mean. Abuelita starts shooting at anything that moves. But before they could escape, Carapax appears and fights Jaime again. The latter shows him the improvements to his suit and also thanks him for making him stronger. However, in the middle of the battle, Carapax tells him that the love he has for his family seems stupid to him, and thanks to this, he is also his biggest weakness. He tells him that right now he is weaker because his family is present. Such words towards Jaime make him angry, and for a moment Jaime manages to beat him, but Carapax gets up and the fight continues. And Uncle Rudy, seeing that his nephew could not defeat the enemy, decides to distract him, which causes Carapax to throw a laser beam at him and send him to the beyond. Jaime angrily begins to attack him until he manages to leave him on the ground when he was going to kill him. The scarab interrupts him and tells him that he shouldn't do that because of all the carriers he's had. He had never met anyone like Jaime, so he asks him to reconsider things. Hearing the scarab, Jaime calms down, and as Carapax had a piece of the scarab's technology, the latter shows him what Carapax had been through during his youth. He at a young age had to be in war after war trying to make a living. Along the way he came to lose people he loved dearly, but his own foolishness led him to become Vicky's pet. Seeing the hard life he has had, Jaime comes to his senses and decides to forgive Carapax. But before he leaves, he tells her that his family was not his weakness. but rather his strength. Touched by Jaime's gesture to Carapax, he realizes that he must correct his mistakes that he had made throughout his life, so he decides to overload his suit and approach Vicky, and once he is near her, they both pass away. After Jaime and his family escape from the island, the whole family returns to their old home, but since the latter had been incinerated, they must start all over again. Fortunately, his Mexican neighbors and all his friends tell him that they will find a way to support them. So they decide to have a party and celebrate everything that had happened. Well, in the end they managed to defeat Vicky, although in the process they lost their father. Days after all the chaos, the new director of Score Industry, who is Jenny, so once she arrives on the scene, she promises them that they will rebuild everything. And she also lets them know that now the company will no longer manufacture weapons. However, before the end of the movie, we have a love scene of heterosexual love. All this while the rest of the family was still celebrating and having a good time, and that's where the movie ends. In the first post-credit scene, we return to Ted Core's hideout, where at that moment a machine turns on and starts receiving a strange transmission coming from an unknown source which said, "Jenny, I love you." And this voice was the voice of Ted Core. And in the second post-credit scene, it's just a caricature of the guy, so it's not that relevant. And don't forget to leave your like, it really helps me a lot, and comment on what you thought of the movie. So without further ado, see you. Bye.